Hello, Emperors. What's up? Man, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna wanna sit back, relax, be in a very relaxed state for this message here because it's a hell of a teaching that I'm about to give you. I mean, this is mixed with a warning, a prophecy, the next two steps, all that in one. So anyway, I actually had this lesson yesterday, and it took me kind of all day to ground it. This is kind of all that we're about to go over. These, I don't know, like 10 pages here. But then I tried to teach it last night, but the story arc of it wasn't solid. So luckily, after I slept on it today, I can really deliver this with a good punch. So, we're going to go. All right. Anyways, you're going to hear me always say I got the next two steps. And honestly, you want to go back to my teachings because I do just that. I provide the next two steps. So every lesson compounds on what I've already given you before. So you'll kind of understand me and my terminology. I also mentioned -1, 0, +1. So in order for you to kind of understand that and the power of zero, you really need to go back. Yeah, anyway, so the two-step principle isn't just don't plan too far ahead. And remember in the last lesson I was talking to you about fulfillment. I was speaking to you guys about how a lot of teachers and how we're taught is to plan so far ahead. But we all heard the scripture of make a plan and God will laugh. But we don't really, and I don't even know if that's a scripture or a saying. I got to look that up. But we don't really know why people say these things. I feel like a lot of us repeat stuff because it sounds cute. But we need to go into the true mechanics of why. And I'm also going to bring up why in this lesson teachers don't really teach this, because most teachers teach biblical stories as a sign of comfort, because it lets you admire the lesson from a distance. You can read about a scripture or a story for 40 to 100 years and nothing in your life changes, because you're treating it as a story to interpret rather than a mechanic to apply. So that's why a lot of people are stuck in belief if this happened or not. But what I do is I'm going to use some biblical stories, especially in this teaching, but I am extracting the mechanics of it. The story is a vehicle and the mechanic is the destination. So most people drop people off at the vehicle. Most teachers drop people off at the vehicle and then call it a trip. So this is also why traditional religious and self-help teachings produce so little actual change and transformation, because people accumulate stories, parables, framework, principles, and nothing moves in their actual life. Because the story is treated as the work when the story is only truly the pointer of the work, which is why belief is optional. Everyone has the right to choose. But the mechanic of the story is universal. And this is what makes my lesson teachable to anybody with a different view. So I don't discriminate. All right? I don't discriminate at all. So with that being said, let's continue. So yesterday went into a lot. So I'm going to talk to you quickly about how my day started yesterday and where my mind was. I was actually a little stressed because I didn't really know what to teach. But in that, I went through my own smoke. So instead of, I usually sit and meditate and just try to teach from an experience. I'm like, what is someone going through right now? So how God will communicate with me is he will show me something that I've overcome. And then he will say, someone's going through this right now. Guide them through it. But that wasn't how this message came yesterday. It's crazy. So And close this. I don't look at my notes first. I want it to be like a little surprise before I like jump into it. So I don't really care. You can see it. I don't really give a damn. But anyways, when I was first started off by listening. I was in bed, and no, it was before that. So before I was like in bed chilling, I was like wondering like, what am I going to teach today? But I went to the gym early. And on the way to the gym, I was kind of listening to like one of my favorite readers. And he was talking about how, it was like an old reading of his. He was talking about how he would listen to stories about the people before the Twin Towers fell, about how certain people had a story about what prevented them from going to the towers. And some people said like their alarm didn't go off, they were stuck in traffic, or just something happened to where they weren't there. So I was like, all right, that's divine intervention. But I didn't think much of it. And so then the lesson started unraveling. I still didn't know what to teach. That didn't really click in. That was just like the lesson. That was just something that I heard earlier in the day. So then I went into the book. I just went to where I last left off, because I have like an app where I read the Torah. So I just started reading. I was at Isaiah 21. And all of that was the prophecy that Isaiah had about Babylon, the fall of Babylon. And it starts off with a chapter called The Burden of the Desert of the Sea. And Babylon was not literally a desert by the sea. That was symbolic language for like judgment is coming swiftly. As whirlwinds in the south pass through, the destruction is moving like a violent storm. And then Elam and Media were Eastern powers that later became part of the coalition that conquered Babylon. And so the prophecy, Isaiah was seeing the future downfall before it happens, and his reaction was overwhelmed, because he was overwhelmed about like what's coming for people, for a lot of people. Because also, like, a true prophet is not merely excited when judgment comes. He feels the weight of what people suffer. And so it also brings in a good visual of what will happen. And it was like the feast interrupted. And that is when Babylon is pictured as having a banquet, and people are feasting as though nothing can happen to them. Then suddenly war has arrived. And the image is similar to other biblical scenes where people feel secure right before disaster. So then it gets into like the watchmen standing out, and then people were asking, how long will this last? And then the watchman was basically saying, the morning cometh and also the night. So the downfall is coming, but darkness is coming again. And relief will come, but not permanently. So as I was tapping into all of this, these are messages that come. And if you guys are into like predictions and prophecy, like write this down. So anyway, so when I was getting that's when my mind went back to what I heard that morning with 9/11. That he was talking about that. So I was like, ooh, what's happening? So instantly I was like, something's happening in September. And I know like September, I don't know if it's like the 88 or 99, but one of those is something called the Lionsgate portal. Lionsgate portal. I don't know. Let me look at that real quick. Give me a second. Let me see. Let me see when. Hold on. Let me see something real quick. I'm going off script right now. Hold on. When is the 2026 Lionsgate portal? Alright, so it's 8/8. That's the Lionsgate portal. I don't know. So what portal is 9/9? So I don't know. But when I looked it up, it was saying 9 means completion of a cycle, letting go and release. So remember that. I didn't even know I was going to pull that up. So remember, letting go and release is going to get into this whole teaching that I came through last night because I went down a rabbit hole. Stressed me out a little bit. Anyway, so I was into this here, and it was the whole overall arc of the prophecies where it was talking about Babylon, Edom, and Arabia and where they placed their confidence. So Babylon trusted its power, and Edom wanted knowledge about the future, and Arabia trusted its warriors. Each learned that security cannot ultimately come from wealth, military strength, or human wisdom. And it was like many want answers, information about the futures. God responds by addressing the conditions of the heart, which is the present. The present. All right? Because what? If he's addressing the heart, it's what you did in the past for him to address the heart. So he addresses the heart in the present. And he's not going to provide you comfort in the future. So this all talks about the present. Anyways, so it talks about social collapse affecting ordinary families. It talks about judgment. And then Isaiah was saying within a year, the glory of Kedar will fall, known for strength, warriors, wealth, military power, and military power would be reduced. So that's what came first. So then I was meditating more. I got into that. I read through that, but I still didn't know the lesson. I was just kind of putting things in my head. So then when I was writing this down, I just got done watching Game of Thrones again. Probably my third time watching the whole arc. And the first scene I was watching in that was like the Battle of the Bastards. I love that war scene. When Ramsay was confident in his numbers, so he planned around Jon not having. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of this yesterday, but it's coming out now. I'm gonna keep going. So anyways, all right, let me keep going. And shout out to my GoPro. I actually had this camera for a long time, and I bought it a few years ago, but didn't use it. But it's kind of coming in handy right now, so hopefully I can get this message out without having to pause it. But anyway, so listen, let me talk about Battle of the Bastards. So it was against Jon and Ramsay. They were both bastards and whatnot. So anyways, Ramsay had Jon's brother, and then Ramsay also took over their castle. And so he wanted his wife, which was Jon's sister, but she escaped him. So she sent him a letter from a crow talking about, from a raven, talking about, listen, you need to send me back my wife, and you need to bow, or I'm going to RAPE her, and then I'm going to kill your brother. And they already said they already killed the brother's wolf and whatnot. So he was baiting him in, but Jon was a little worried, but he was going to go, but he had a small army, and Ramsay had a big army. So he trusted having the land and having the numbers. So when Jon approached and then the fight happened after he killed the brother, his little brother, they planned their whole attack. And mind you, the strategy was crazy. He broke down his army into two parts. So he sent one forward to draw in Jon's army. And then once Jon's army was fully drawn in, he used the second part of his army to wrap around and then to collapse them in the middle. That's a dope strategy. But he wasn't depending on, he didn't know. And plus Jon didn't even know too, because Jon went in. But guess what Jon did? He just moved 2 steps ahead. He wasn't thinking far into the future. So Sansa came in. Once he exhausted his last play and wrapped around Jon's army, believing that he was going to collapse them in, Sansa now came with the bigger army and then wrapped around their whole forces and then won. So it shows you that a lot of people want to know the future so they can plan ahead, and that's what they did. They had knowledge, strategy, and the numbers, but still, they still got collapsed. So it doesn't matter how much power you have or you plan for, or how many mystics you try to talk to, or how much time clarity you try to get. God is staring at your heart. And Ramsey was evil and John was pure. And that was in the present moment. So John won specifically because of the pureness of his heart. Man, I didn't expect to channel that, but now it's going to make sense. Listen, let's talk about timeline. So anyways, when I was laying in bed, I was thinking about the lost wife stuff came into my head. And I always, how they teach the lost wife story, I'm going to go over what that story is briefly. A brief story on, let me do this one. I wrote it twice. So the story of lost wife, briefly, is Lot and his family lived in Sodom. The city was about to be destroyed. 2 messengers, angels, came to escort them out and gave one instruction: flee for your life, do not look back. And then as fire and brimstone fell on Sodom, Lot's wife, who's unnamed, and there's a reason for that too, I'm gonna go into that, in the text, looked back and she turned to a pillar of salt. So what do most people do? Now this story is taught a lot. So traditional interpretations of the story is that she was disobedient to God. Everyone loves to categorize God as just being this punisher. That's why Allah is the most misunderstood. But anyway, I'm going to bring clarity to all this stuff here. I'm going to teach it the way no one has ever taught this before. So they also said it was about attachment to material things that she left behind. False. Longing for the corrupt path. Lack of faith in new life ahead. The Jewish say that she looked back because she missed her daughters who stayed in Sodom. And the Christian interpretation is warning against turning back from salvation. It ain't none of that stuff. It's a mechanic. It's teaching you how to manifest in real present time and timeline jump, and how to walk into your manifestation. That's what it's teaching you. I'm going to break it all down of how it's even teaching that. Let me go back to what I wrote for today. So anyways, and this is going to tie into my 2-step principle. The 2-step principle isn't just don't plan too far ahead. Now listen, what if John held back to wait for him to have the bigger army? God already was planning in the future. So the timelines, you know what he said? If you go back to that episode, the whole episode, he said, we won with greater odds. That's what he said. But then Sansa was saying you have to be a lot smarter. But guess what? She was right. So she was the plan ahead. She was the step 8. So she was already contacting other people. So it wasn't that they were at odds. Because at the end, she was like, if it wasn't for me, we wouldn't have won. And no, John was right too, and Sansa was right. John was right to move forward with what he had and not waiting. And Sansa was right to plan in advance. So, because guess what? Sansa couldn't fight in the army, but what was Sansa's role in all of that? Sansa could go to her other connections and meet them there. So though they were at odds, they were also in an alignment, and their odds was strategic alignment to begin with. John moved forward with what he had because guess what? He was like David and Goliath. He was used to winning with what he had. But the win was always in God's hands. So the timeline of them winning still existed. He just had to be there when it was time. So that means he had to literally be fearless. In order for him to have won that battle, if they would have planned to have a bigger army, then guess what? His opponents would have saw that they had a bigger army, and then they would have planned according to that. But guess what he had to do? He had to literally walk forward, even though it risked his brother getting killed, because Sansa even said they weren't going to get the brother back because the brother was a threat, because just the brother living means that he had the true claim to the house and to the north. And you're going to watch this episode again, Battle of the Bastards, with different eyes if you are a Game of Thrones watcher after this. So listen, even the writers of the episode are going to look at this reading and be like, we didn't even think of that. Yeah, I might finally bring it back after listening to me. But anyways, let me keep going. So listen. So make a plan and God will plan. So while the enemy plans, God is planning. That's like in the Quran somewhere. I don't know. Don't ask me to cite it. I love that part of the Quran. I love the Quran. But anyway, so John literally had to exhaust the other person's forces. So that means fight with no guarantee. That's why I was reading that part of Isaiah when Edom's problem was they always want knowledge about the future, and Arabia trusted its warrior and Babylon trusted its powers. So that's why I love that battle so much. I didn't even know I was going to hone the lesson in like that. So anyways, so John went in, and as I told you, they attacked them with like arrows at first, but John kept charging forward. He just kept he wasn't thinking about losing. He just like, I'm here to fight. He was in the present. So then his people charged in. But you wanna know what that was? It looks like they were trapped, but that was actually the bait. Them walking into the trap. And if you listen to my video on, I'm gonna put a clip of it on here. If you listen to my video on TikTok, I was like, and it's crazy, I'm only able to teach this stuff because I went through it. God will literally walk you into a trap just to trap your enemies in the same trap that they created for you. Damn, I did that before. So I'm gonna talk to you about that another day. I don't want to talk about that right now. But anyways, it pisses me off when I talk about it. So anyway, their plan was to use the first part of the army to fight John's army, and then lower them in, and then wrap around them and barricade them. But since that's the plan, God sent in later, once they thought that they won, and that's the feast. Oh my gosh, just channeling. It's just coming together. It wasn't ready for yesterday. Anyways, the feast interrupted. Babylon is pictured as having a banquet. People are feasting as though nothing can happen to them. And then suddenly war has arrived. So yes, they had shields all around in a circle. I'm gonna try to put clips of that on here. And then they was just like, it's gonna be easy. We're just gonna spear them in, and then to the last man's end. So while they comfortable thinking that it's gonna be an easy win, and mind you, Ramsey is outside watching it, letting them do his dirty work, after that happens, guess what? Their feast is interrupted. War came. The huge army came and charged through all of them, because guess what? God had them exactly where they wanted. Right then and there, and the army charged around. So, damn, they don't even know when they wrote that. That was like a biblical thing. I love war. I'm sorry, I love it. Anyway, so, where the hell am I? I'm too excited right now. So anyways, so that's what I was telling you before. Like, the reason why spiritualists won't teach this, because guess what? This whole lesson will shut down a lot of spiritual businesses, because why are you buying from them? Now, I'm going to go into that in a second. So, smoke beyond... Where the hell was I? So yes, this goes into the two-step principle, and I just brought down the two-step principle in motion and how the two-step principle activates the timeline. So what was the manifestation? The manifestation was to win and take over the house. That was. But yes, God will show you. He will show you the destination, but not the journey. That's why it is so important to take two steps, and that's why fear should never exist, because the opposite of love is fear, and fear creates stagnancy. And that's what they want to do in smoke. They want you to be still, and they want you to fear. You understand? But this is how you actually, that's why I'm telling you, when they say the battle is not yours, the battle is the Lord's, like, that is BS. The battle is you fighting with the Lord. But you have to jump into the battle. God likes people who jump front line. That's why I do this stuff, because I'm front line in his battle. But you want to know what? I know if anybody's planning against me, God's 10 steps ahead of you. So I ain't worried about you guys. Let's go. Anyway, so keep going. So anyway, the two-step principle isn't just plan too far ahead. It's the mechanic of how you actually cross timelines. So what I got from this and from Lot's wife is, I feel like judgment is happening in a situation. It's happening in the macro and the micro. But God also is doing a rescue mission too. But the rescue mission comes with the Lot's wife story. So when I was thinking of the Lot's wife story, I was thinking about like my interpretation of it. And it was so, and then I had to pull up. When it first came in, I was like, yo, she missed the portal. That's what first came to my head. She missed the portal. So let me talk about how I even came to that. And then I had to do a whole bunch of research to even, I did a lot of research to back this up before I came to you guys, because, you know, I like to challenge my mind and your mind, but, you know, it ain't about if I'm right or wrong. It's about taking the belief out of it and replacing it with the mechanics of the story. You feel me? So anyway, so at first I was like, all right, connect two steps ahead principle to the biblical story of Lot's wife, the woman who looked back at Sodom and turned into salt. Now, the reason why a lot of people are not believing the story is because how can a person turn into salt? They think it's just a mystical story. So I'm here to take, even though I am a mystic, I am here to take the mysticism out of it. All right, and let's bring it down and ground it to some practicality so this lesson can be used for anyone, no matter what your beliefs are. Okay, and it can help you move forward in your life. Now, the core insight of the whole story, as Lot's wife, so this is what my insight was. Lot's wife had a portal to her future opening up. Now, I'm gonna keep going. In the moment of that transformation, by looking back, she missed it entirely. Now, before I go further, if you go into my previous video, I always talked about -1, 0, +1. The power is to always stay in the present. So when we talk about the smoke screen, what did I tell you that does? When smoke occurs as you're moving forward, it's usually to block your decision making and to make you feel like you can't move forward at the time. And that's usually connected to an illusion of a necessity, meaning people who are blocking you, people who need you, all of that. So for me, like I told you, with creating this channel, I only had a phone and everything, and it was like, it was an illusion that I needed a whole big setup to teach. I can just teach. I got my mind, a paper, a pen, I got a phone, I got like a little GoPro right here. You know, I got a lot of stuff. I got enough. That's all I need is that. So I keep moving forward. And then it's like the lessons just keep coming, and it's like I'm flowing with this stuff. So anyway, what did I say? So the moment of transformation, by looking back, she missed the portal entirely. So what I got from that is that she went into the -1. And what she was supposed to do was bring the future into the present. Now, the salt isn't punishment. It's what happens when you crystallize in the past instead of moving through the threshold. Now, the angel's warning was, the angel warned Lot's family to flee Sodom without looking back. So a lot of people say because she looked back, it was disobedience. But no, there's a deeper mechanic to it. The story reveals the cost of nostalgia or attachment when you're standing at a transformative moment. So let's go briefly back into the story. Now, the brief story is Lot and his wife lived in, hold on one second. Give me a second. Sorry. All right. So the brief story is Lot and his family lived in Sodom. The city was about to be destroyed. 2 messenger angels came to escort them out and gave one instruction: flee for your life, do not look back. Genesis 19:17. And as fire and brimstone fell on Sodom, Lot's wife looked back. She turned a pillar of salt. Now, as I said before, people translate that as disobedience, but my interpretation was the escape was a portal threshold moment. The future was being made manifest in real time. So what I tell you before, I was also talking about how people before with the 9/11 that came earlier, they were like blocked from going into the destruction. So how does that tie into this story here? So how I got the 2-step story first was this. When the door to her future opened and made manifest, she had a choice. Now, what did I tell you before? The enemy wants to obstruct one thing, your choice. They want you to bring the past into the future. And they do that by looking at your failures, looking at how things didn't work out before, by looking at the odds you went to before, putting that into the future. And they also want you to have anxiety about the future. The goal is to stay in the present and only move 2 steps at a time. And you do that by removing everything that's standing in your way. So she missed a portal by looking back. Now, how did she miss the portal by looking back? So, the escape was not a rescue. That's what I'm going to translate it to. It was a threshold moment, a moment where the future was actually making itself manifest. The instruction was do not look back. Wasn't a rule. It was a description of how the physics of the threshold in the moment of crossing, you can only face one direction. So, she didn't disobey a command. She collapsed the portal by trying to be in 2 places at once. The looking back is the missed manifestation. The verification of what was burning behind her is the petrification. There was no gap between doubt and salt. So why salt? Why is salt even used? It's not a random consequence. It's the perfect symbol. So let's just drop into salt real quick. So salt preserves. That's what salt does. It keeps things in a fixed state. Salt crystallizes. It's the alchemical principle of the body, the form, the petrified, the opposite of fluid, forward motion. Okay? Salt is a pillar. That's why it says she turned into a pillar of salt. It's a witness. She didn't disappear. She became a marker others could see. So she literally became the lesson she failed to learn. That when it's time to move forward, do not look back. She became the past that she couldn't release. She's not punished. She is crystallized in the wrong moment. Forever neither Sodom, its destroyed self, nor the future that she didn't cross. She is stuck in the threshold, the most dangerous place to stop. Now, keep going. Let's do a Roman parallel for this. So the Roman god of doorways was called Janus. I will actually put a picture of that in here. 2 faces, one looking forward, one back. But Janus is the guardian of the threshold, not the one crossing it. When you cross, you can only face one way. So, Lot's wife tried to be Janus. She tried to hold both directions at the threshold. You can't. The threshold demands a direction forward or you fix in place. So you notice that it has like 2 heads? Yeah. So the portal mechanics. Let's talk about the portal and why I even mentioned a portal. So, this is the layer that most teachers miss. Manifestation, okay? Manifestation moments, real ones, the kind where the door of the future opens and makes itself visible, have specific physics. So, the portal is timed, all right? Not because, the portal is timed. It only opens while you're moving through it. It doesn't wait while you check on what's collapsing behind you. So you ever heard that of a missed opportunity of something came that you really asked for and you weren't ready? That's it. It's when whatever you want finally comes in the physical. So watch this. The portal demands forward attention, not because the past is bad, but because the portal is made for your forward attention. The moment you turn around, you're no longer feeding it, it closes. All right? Now, the verification is the collapse. Most people don't fall fail to manifest because the door didn't open. They fail because in the moment of crossing, they turned to verify the old life was really gone. The turning is the failure to cross. What's behind you doesn't need your witness anymore. Sodom was already being destroyed. Lot's wife wasn't going to save anyone by looking back. The looking served no one. It only crystallized her. So the two-step principle. Now this is the inverse warning. So before I was telling you about how not to get too stuck in the future. Now also brought up the battle of the bastards. If he wouldn't have stepped into the present moment of the battle, he wouldn't have won. If he was too far in the future thinking that he had to wait until he had more, which was already existing. That already existed, but he didn't know how. He had to step into how. So until he had stepped into the battle, until he stepped into the trap, that is when the other army came in. So if he didn't do that, if he waited, that timeline of him winning wouldn't have existed, or it wouldn't have made manifest. It would have existed as a potential, but it wouldn't have existed in reality. So, the inverse warning is the looking back, the lost wife story. Before, it's the looking too far in advance, because that's where anxiety is. The inverse is the warning, okay? The two-step principle says, now clear the next 2 steps. Don't try to clear the whole path forward. Don't generate anxiety about smoke 10 steps out. Now, Lot's wife is the inverse warning. Don't try to clear the whole path backwards. Don't try to verify or grieve or hold on to what's already burning. You don't clear what's behind, and you don't clear what's beyond. You walk the 2 steps that are in front of you. Let's keep going. So the illusion that pulls you off path. So forward illusion, I need to see and control what's coming. That's the illusion of necessity. Okay? Backwards illusion, I need to verify what I'm leaving is really gone. The lost wife teaching, that's the illusion of loyalty. Both are the same mistake, leaving the present moment to occupy a moment that doesn't exist anymore. The past, or doesn't exist yet. The future. Both petrify you in the threshold. And a deeper layer to this, why she is unnamed. She became a thing, not a person. She lost her name when she lost the forward motion. To have a name is to be ongoing, alive, in motion. To become salt is to become permanently that. Frozen, fixed, witnessable, but no longer becoming. The moment you stop becoming, you become a marker for others. That's the cost of looking back at the threshold. So the future doesn't open all at once. Like I told you, that story of the Battle of the Bastards, it only opened as he was moving forward. And then everything came into motion, that potential. So as he moved forward, that made sense to hurry up and go look for other people, because she knew that he couldn't win it on his own. But if he stayed still and kept planning, then she wouldn't have hurried up and went to go get the other army, and they wouldn't have rushed to the battle, because they had to already be in motion for that to even unravel. So it manifests as you move forward. But the 10 steps people, how they will, and the people who sell all this other stuff will go out of business because they want you to follow their 10 steps. They are an illusion of a necessity. And they don't even want you to know about the illusion of a necessity, because then it will be revealed that they are an illusion of a necessity. Shit, let me keep going. Anyway, so the future doesn't happen all at once. It opens in moments, portals where what's being formed inside you becomes possible outside of you. So inside of him, he knew that he could defeat the odds, because that's what he already did. Just like David with Goliath. He already knew that with a sling and a rock that he could beat a lion and a bear. So he knew that stepping into the battlefield with Goliath wasn't no different because he already beat greater odds before. So what happens is, what Ramsey did, oh my God, it's going to come together. You remember what I told you before? An enemy is only, so it's always, we are our greatest enemy. So as within, so without. So an enemy is only useful to the devil if it can hold you back physically. And an enemy is only useful to God if it can teach you how you're holding yourself back internally. So Ramsey baited him with something that was irritating him, that showed him that, yo, this is going to be a real battle. So Ramsey first tried to get in the mind, and that goes back to what I said about Adam and Eve. It wasn't about eating the tree of knowledge. That's the lie. It was about he wanted to become within. I said heaven and hell exist simultaneously, but the devil can't affect you in an outward heaven. A devil can't affect you in a physical hell if he cannot bring hell within you. So that's why shame came after that. And that's where the curse of the childbirth started happening, because now she was birthing people into a hell that was within, and then to an external hell because she didn't heal that wound. I didn't even know I was going to say that, but I did. I thought it before, but I didn't want to say it unless I was bold enough to say it. But I feel like I was meant to say that, and I'm going to tap into that when I can go deeper into that another time. But anyways, so the first thing that he did was not go attack John because he knew John was confident. So he tried to attack John by attacking his choice. John had to show up with confidence, not with what Sansa said of, oh, we need more. John had to show up to that battle with as he was. I even did that before. I stepped into a trap with no attorneys before, no nothing, literally myself, because I believed that I could get through it. Even though right then and there, I didn't really win that initial battle, but I trusted that God will overall handle it. I was supposed to step into that trap and then lower people into a visible trap to where then God will come in and handle the rest. That's what that was my job. My job wasn't to win the whole battle. It was to just... All right, guys, my bad. I have to charge my thing up. But anyways, so, I forgot where I was at. Okay, anyways, I had to show up to a battle as myself. The illusion was that I needed a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of things. So I had to literally use the tools that I had. I'm not gonna go back into that. But anyway, so the future doesn't happen all at once, but I had to move forward into that and trust my manifestation. And this is how it's going to go into manifestation. So anyways, damn. So yeah, the future doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments. Portals where what's being formed inside you become possible outside you. In those moments, the only direction is forward. So what did I tell you to do? The enemy wants you to stay stuck. It doesn't matter if it comes to you with anxiety about the past or the future. The enemy only wants to keep you stuck in the present because it can keep up with you. So how the enemy does that? We talk about it in old videos. By having you give to others consistently. So people in your life who drain you, if you're giving to them, especially from a wound, you are putting a lot of energy into helping other people build. You're not building for yourself, so you're not moving forward in your life with your own stuff. So that's why a lot of people who are very abundant attract a lot of people and have a lot of friends and stuff. And you think it's because of you being the man or you being the woman or popularity. It's no, those people get to benefit off of your prosperity. And then as you're pouring into them, you have to keep pouring more into yourself. So what does that mean? You overwork. You're doing so much stuff. But they want to keep you overworking, and they want to keep you getting paid. So that way you'll keep chasing money rather than fill yourself up and pour it into what you actually love, because that will require for you not to give to so many people. And that will require you to not build more in your future, because now you're attached to pouring into a whole bunch of other people. But I'm not even going to get into that lesson right now. We're going to keep going with this lesson right here. So, looking back doesn't honor what you're leaving. It betrays what you are becoming. Most people don't miss their manifestation because the door didn't open. They missed it because the moment of crossing, they turned to verify the old life was really gone. So what happens when you really want something? What do you start getting? People who are in your present and your past tell you that, oh, you shouldn't go for that because of what you did in the past. You're going to probably treat whatever you did now, like, let's say if you're a cheater or you was like a serial cheater and you actually now want to settle down. But the people before you know that you was a player. You right now are changing your ways in the present. But those people, and God lets that happen to teach, to see if you really want that. They're going to keep bringing up your past into your present so you can feel unworthy of having that. Or if you went through something negative in the past and you want something better and you're willing to finally heal yourself so you can have something better, they want to remind you of what you went through before so you can be a victim. And so then when something great comes in, you won't trust that. It's to keep you in anxiety about the future, or to keep you depressed about what you went through or how you acted in the past. So that way you don't bring what you want into the future, into the present. So anyways, the salt isn't punishment. It's what you become when you can't realize the version of you that wasn't meant to die in Sodom. So it just means you'll become that. They crystallize who you were in your past. So for me, people like to judge me for my past. So that way I won't move boldly into my future and work hard in my present. So they want to crystallize an old version of me. They want me to turn into salt, meaning that's the only version of me. And they want me to stay in that reality because they can't grow to perceive me as another better version of myself. So I have to move forward, but leave them behind. And what do they become? They become Sodom. They become the past that's being destructive. But they want to keep me there because I don't exist in their future, because I only exist in that past as a version of me that even attracted them. The present is the only place the door opens. The past and the future are both pillars of salt. In the present, when you choose right now to be better, when you choose right now to not do the things that you did before, when you choose right now to not have anxiety about the future, when you choose right now in this present moment that you're going to focus on today and then the next 2 steps, and then you focus on the next 2 steps by constantly staying present and removing yourself, that keeps you from building from the person that you want to be in the +1 in the future. Let's keep going. The new timeline already exists. So when you see what you want in the version of you that wants to exist, you become that now. You don't buy a 10-step equation on how to become that. You become that now because the present starts unraveling. It will start unraveling, and it unravels in the removal of what is presently blocking you. Damn, that's a bar. Keep going. It existed before you crossed into it. The key is, that's why they say, what is luck? It's preparation meets opportunity. No, what luck is when what you're manifesting becomes present. The portal is where you step out of the old and into the one that's waiting, that exists. So right now, when you're imagining what you want, guess what? Congratulations, it already exists. It's a potential. It exists. So while you're sitting right now listening to me, exactly what you want, that relationship that you want, that life that you want, it exists at this moment. And guess what? That version of you exists now, because guess what? Let's say that version of you means you're not going to be freely giving yourself to a whole bunch of people. You're going to be cutting women off. All you got to do is to choose to be that version now. When the next woman comes who wants your energy, who wants your time, you say no to her. Guess what? That version of you that's already doing that in the future is already doing that now. So now you keep moving forward. You start removing other things that keeps you from that version of you. So now as you keep moving forward, you're going to what? You're going to keep removing things that keep you from that version of you. Because that version of you is now and you want it. You're not in the threshold thinking about it. And then when people try to remind you of your past, you're not going to look back at that version of you and say, you know what, you're right, and become a pillar of salt. And you're not going to be so anxious to where you're so still and scared. A pillar of salt in the future too. Most teachers make manifestation sound like creating the future, but it is not. The future already exists in potential. The question is whether you cross into it. Lot's wife stories. The angels arrived. The new timeline was activated. And we're going to go into why the angels even arrived. But I'm driving into the story of what happened with Lot's wife. And then I'm going to go into it before. And that's going to tie into the rescue mission, which is going to tie into the Towers prophecy that I had with the Isaiah prophecy that I had. It's all coming together. Yes, this is a religious teaching, a spiritual teaching, a quantum physics teaching. It's all that stuff put into one, because do not ever try to put me in a box. I am everything. Keep going. So, when the angels arrived, the new timeline was activated. All right? The instruction was given. The portal opened. So the instruction was the portal opening. Now, the fire started falling on Sodom. The old timeline became destroyed. So what happens in real life when Sodom starts collapsing? So as you actively, I told you, the future happens in a collective of present moments. So as you actively start taking away things that keeps you from your manifestation, that old timeline collapses. So you start having issues or problems. What happens? The version of you that gave to those people collapses. You're no longer giving to them. So what happens? If they benefited off of you pouring into them and giving to them so much, that relationship collapsed. So for me, people who right now want me to do old jobs or tell me, oh, I want you to be a part of my business because you know how to build it, that version of me don't exist anymore. So what happens? Those businesses that I created start collapsing, and everyone kept saying that, oh, she's a failure, but I didn't want to look at it like that. I wanted to look at it was like, that was Sodom. I was just moving forward and following the angels' guides of moving forward. So yes, when I had to cut off the family that wanted to keep me in the identity of being someone who they wanted to go crazy, but I'm smart as shit, you love it. Anyways, when they wanted to keep me as, oh, she's a criminal because she scammed to get into an apartment before because it was so hard. But now I'm the version of me that won't settle, or I won't do those things because I realize that I don't got to compromise myself to gain something for an illusion of a necessity. When those things started falling off into my life, it came with people falling off. And then that's when I started partnering with the universe. I started cutting the cord myself. I started cutting everything that kept me from what I want. I started cutting the cord myself. So it fell off. I became the co-creator with the Sodom because I was like, let the damn tower fall. Anyways, Sodom became destroyed. Sodom being destroyed wasn't punishment. It was the universe completing the timeline change for her. She just had to not sit still while it ended. No, go back. She just had to not still be in it when it ended. Because if she was stuck in Sodom, it was already being destroyed. So if she was stuck there, then she was destroyed there. I'm going to go deeper into that. I'm going to go deeper into this rabbit hole. I hope you guys are following me. Let's keep going. So, why looking back collapses you with the old timeline? For those who want me to go deeper and asking how, just every time I keep going deeper, I say I'm going to go deeper, I want you on the other end to say keep going. And I want you, as you're listening to this, I want you to comment keep going. That's how I know you're following me. And that's how I know. Just say keep going, Q. Just keep going. Anyway, so the mechanic. Your body crosses, and by the way, this is all, I'm going to verify this in physics too. For those of you who still want to channel me, you scientific people, I got you too. I got all of y'all. Anyways, the mechanic. Your body crosses the threshold. Your attention determines which timeline you actually inhabit. When she looked back, her body was outside Sodom, but her consciousness was still inside it. And I'm going to also talk to you about, let me circle this. I'm going to say, system. I'll remember what that means later. So anyway, so her consciousness was still inside it. So, the rule of timelines. You exist where your attention is, not where your body is. Attention is the actual location of you. So that's why I've told you the enemy's goal. That's why you have to know the mindset of the enemy and what they want to do. They want your attention. Okay? They want your attention. So when you're moving forward, what do? They distract you with more tasks. They distract you with more things to do. So you notice why we want to move towards something and you keep having a blockage come in. They want your attention to go towards them. So that way they can come into your future too. That's why you're going to end up getting, when you start seeing this unravel with reality and you start seeing why things happen, you're going to become so ruthless with what you want. You're going to start freaking cutting off everything that keeps you from it. I'm telling you, start with one manifestation and then see, and then go from there. But make a whole bigger one. Don't just manifest little. Have an overall arc of what you truly want. But then have little things in there, like financial goals or a business goal. And watch how everything I say works. So anyway, so her consciousness was still inside of Sodom. The rule of timelines. You exist where your attention is, not where your body is. Attention is the actual location of you. So you know how people in like mental institutes can like physically be here, but their mind is everywhere else? Exactly. They're just in another dimension. They didn't lose their mind. They just ain't here. They gone. They gone. They're somewhere else. The goal is not to keep medicating them. It's to guide them back home. Anyways, so she became the collapse. Not because she was punished. Everybody want to freaking blame God for everything. No, accountability is the liberation. But because she chose in the moment of crossing to put her consciousness back into the timeline that was actively ending, and the timeline took her with it. Because that's what collapsing timelines do. They take everyone still inside them when they collapse. Now, I'm also going to go back to like why it had to happen and why her consciousness has to happen. Let me put, hold on. No one. All right. Tell me to keep going. She wasn't turned into salt as punishment. She was crystallized. That's what they want to do. They want to crystallize you into all the problems that you did in the past. They want to crystallize you into the mistakes that you committed in the past. They want to crystallize you into that. And then they want you to believe that someone got to come and save you just so you can be forgiven. You have to forgive yourself. You are your own liberator. You are your own salvation. You are all the things. She was crystallized as the natural consequence of being in two timelines at the exact moment. One of them was ending, half in, half out, frozen at the boundary. Visual interpretation of what happens to consciousness when it can't pick a timeline. Just keep going. I got a lot for you guys. I'm going to keep going. Hopefully this stops at an hour, but F it. Pause it and save it for the next day. Now, let's keep going. Let's talk about before Lot's wife. Now, listen, I told you, I had to like jump around the story. It's all going to make sense. Mind you, this gave me a headache yesterday because I didn't know where it was going. But as I'm teaching it, I feel like it's all coming together. So if you follow me, you follow me. Or just like this video. Abraham's tent versus Sodom. I'm going to go deep into this lesson about Abraham, Father Abraham. So, The contrast establishes a choice. Two ways of being. Now we're going to go into really what's happening with Sodom here. Okay? And then we're going to go into, I'm hearing that's going to bridge me back to the Isaiah. That's going to bring me back to the battle of the bastards. Ooh. Okay, I've been told to get this other prophecy. I had got another prophecy. So when I was talking to you guys about Game of Thrones, I didn't even mean to go into the battle of the bastards. I wasn't. The true battle that I was getting was the battle of the living and the dead. All right? So good and evil is what I'm hearing now. So then we hear about like Judgment Day resurrection. Okay? So, not that I said resurrection. Why the hell I say resurrection? That was never anything. I don't know why I said resurrection. I don't know why. I'm going to leave it and just let that, like, I'm not going to ruminate on that right now. But no, we'll talk. Oh, I meant to say Revelation. That's why I said that. Revelation. So we're talking about the book of Revelation. Anyway, so. Oh my God. I can't wait to teach you guys about that stuff. Like, oh my God. I can't wait to talk to you guys about that. Anyways. Liberation. But anyways, what I just got right now was to go back. So I was telling you about when I talk about Abraham, Sodom, all that, it's going to bring us back to the Babylon. And then something about, so we got the war. And then, okay, when I was doing this yesterday, I kept hearing winter's coming. Now listen, 9/11. So there's a time frame between, and earlier I was talking about like the portal for 9. So we also got like September, but then that's after Lionsgate, which is 8. So after August, so I got fall. Something between fall and winter. Winter's coming. So then I got winter's coming. So when I was talking about like, oh shit. So when I was talking about, oh man, you guys got to bear with me. My mind is kind of going a lot of places right now. So when I was talking about winter's coming, I was thinking in the Game of Thrones about how winter lasts a very long time. So usually what they do is like they store food. Ooh, it's bringing back to the prophecy here when everyone was like how long it's going to last. And then they was just talking about how the Watcher was talking about how many one answers information about the future. God responds by addressing, I don't know where this is coming from right now. It's all coming together. God responds about addressing the conditions of the heart instead. And then winter's coming. So when I got, I wrote this note down here. All right, so then I got, my thing keeps getting hot. I need some new equipment. But anyway, so message from the morning's tarot reading. All right, cool. So Game of Thrones. So yeah, I wrote down yesterday, save money. So something about September through December, I'm hearing you guys need to like save a lot of money. Like store money. And I also, it's crazy. Oh my gosh. You remember what I posted a video about a word witch before this. The extended reading that's in the Patreon, it gives you advice about what to do with money. Watch that. There you go. That's all I'm gonna say. So anyway, so let's tap into before Lot's wife. So Abraham's tent versus Sodom. The contrast establishes a choice. Two ways of being are shown side by side. Hospitality versus predation. So before the angels reach Sodom, they appear to Abraham, Lot's uncle. He sees travelers, doesn't know they're angels. He washes their feet, slaughters a calf, feeds them, and treats them righteously. What happens in Sodom is opposite. Strangers arrived and are met with violence. The two cities are being compared in real time. So I'm thinking two people are being compared in real time. I'm just gonna keep going. And it's, yeah, anyways. God says the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is so great that their sins are so grievous that, all right, anyways, let's talk about that. So there was, in Sodom was just really bad. It was to where like RAPE was just really big there. And the outcry, and then like people, they attacked people who visited there. And you know it by what happened in that. What happens is that people will visit there, and then all the men will just assault and rape the people who visited there. It was bad. It was so bad to where God had to send angels to come do something. It's like the cries reach heaven. Okay? Dang, I'm hearing that's significant too for what's going on right now. Shit. Anyway, so God is responding to a call. He is randomly choosing to destroy... No, he is not randomly choosing to destroy a city. The destruction is a response to a system that has already been crying out for relief from its own corruption. So Abraham bargains with God, knowing his nephew. So and then that's when he started saying, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? And then that's when he started saying, all right, if there's 50 people, will you wash it away? Will you destroy it? He said, no. 45, no. 40, 30, 10. And then he got back to 10, and that's when he was like, damn, there's not even 10 people to save. The city was that far gone to where there wasn't even 10 people to save. So God isn't destroying Sodom because he's being harsh. He's destroying Sodom because there is nothing left to save. Now, so 2/3 of the angels go to Sodom, and Lot is at the gate. So now, Lot echoes Abraham's hospitality. Remember I told you before, I was like, remove people who echo? Now, this was the biggest thing. Lot was even able to be kind of saved because he echoed Abraham's hospitality. Because Lot isn't fully corrupted by Sodom yet. Emphasize yet. Okay? But he's been living in it long enough that his daughters are engaged to local men, and his wife, now remember, his wife is fully integrated. Now, mind you, there was not even 10 people to save, but Lot's wife and family was given mercy off of Abraham. God remembered Abraham. So anyways, so that night, half of the male population surrounded Lot's house and demanded to rape the strangers. Lot offers his daughters, his virgin daughters. So that shows how compromised Lot already was with it. So he wasn't fully compromised, but you can tell that he still had a lot of righteousness and good in him. So this was a rescue mission. Now, what did I tell you before with like the 9/11 thing? A lot of people got rescued from, because I'm not saying that everyone who was destroyed was evil or corrupt. I'm not saying any of that. It's just a symbolic of the message that some people were saved from catastrophe, people who kind of listen. Because sometimes people, I'll get into this too, sometimes God even tries to save people, but people just don't hear that call because a lot of people are not connected to God to even hear the call or to hear the warning or to hear the sign evenly. So I'm not saying that, so please don't come for me. I'm just symbolizing from when the reader was going based off of stories about how people got divine intervention, but prayers to people who have lost people in that. Just don't come for me, please. And if you do, I already explained it to you, so it is what it is. So anyways, the people refused to take his daughters. The angels, so they were like fighting. They wanted the people, I guess the angels in disguise. So anyways, the angels pulled Lot inside and blinded the mob. All right. They told Lot to get out now and take your family because we are about to destroy this place. God sent us. Now remember what I told you. Let's go back. I told you I'm going to circle something. Man, my mind is like everywhere right now. So remember I was just like, when she looked back, and this is where a lot of people miss this in teaching, but I don't really like to miss a thing. I'm pretty thorough. When she looked back, her body was outside of Sodom, but her consciousness was there. Now, mind you, I told you that she was fully integrated, and also why God didn't save it is because the whole town was corrupt. So if they were to keep living in that, they would keep breeding new people with that. And they would still keep doing that. So God had to destroy it because they were all too far gone. So now we'll keep going. So the people refused to like not try to attack the angels there. So they were going to so that's when he was like, go. Now anyways, the true sin of Sodom was written centuries later. So a lot of people aren't even teaching about the true sin of Sodom, which is in Ezekiel 16:49. Now, the true sin of Sodom, which goes back to the Isaiah. So now, let's go to the Ezekiel. Now, this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and the needy. Now, mind you, if I'm going back, so the final prophecy. So in Arabia, social collapse started affecting the ordinary families, but not like the people at the top who were wealthy. So Isaiah said, within a year, the glory of Kedar will fall, and they're known for strength, warriors, and wealth and military powers. So that's why when they were talking about how long will this go, God was he was basically saying, if you want to know how long, ask God. God's looking at your heart right now. You know, he's looking at how you treat people. So that was the true sin of Sodom, is that they had everything. Let me go into that. So their sin was a system. They had everything and shared nothing. Their cries of the poor and oppressed went unanswered. Strangers were threats to dominate, not guests to welcome. The corruption wasn't individuals, it was the entire civic order. Sodom wasn't destroyed for one sin. Sodom was destroyed because the system itself had become predatory, and the people inside it could no longer produce even 10 who lived differently. So Sodom was a system. Okay? And what is Babylon? An empire. That's why I talk to my emperors. You notice the correlation? Anyways. Empire. Babylon was an empire. Write that down. So Abraham bursted the tent in Sodom came first. That was us seeing the contrast. The outcry came first. Okay? Abraham's intersection works partially. Now, he can't save Sodom, but God remembered Abraham and brought Lot out of the catastrophe. And that's what I got with the rescue mission, is that a lot of God's people are in places that are corrupt. And God is trying to warn a lot of those people to show them the way, because he's going to destroy a lot of things. And he is giving people a chance to like leave it. It's a rescue mission. That's what I got from that. He is sending divine intervention. He is sending angels. He's going to, the prophecy is already to destroy, but God wants to save people right now. This is a rescue mission. Now, let me tell you why she also turned into a pillar of salt too, and how that was also the warning. Shit, hold on, my client's calling me. Give me a second. Hello?
Hey.
How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. You been
Yeah. If you give me about an hour, you're gonna love how I like reorganize that stuff, okay? And I'll send that to you. So I'll be available in like 45 minutes.
You're fine. What I found is I was going through my emails and I found something Ken sent me that Valiant did, and it's so. How many details you see?
Okay, I'm back. Man, real quick, like I probably shouldn't have answered that, but I'm like building a project for someone. But I tell you, like, this is such a contrast to like my other business. But anyways, I'm like prioritizing this first. This is like my fulfillment, then I'll do client work. But anyways, go back to this. So Sodom is a system and Babylon is an empire. So we first talked about the Abraham tent versus Sodom. The outcry came first. Abraham. Okay, yeah. So Abraham's intercession works partially. Now, he can't say Sodom, but God remembered Abraham and brought Lot out of catastrophe. Lot is saved not by his own merit, but because someone outside the system was holding intercession for him. So if Lot didn't have Abraham, he would have went too, because he was half corrupt and his wife was already in that. So that also gives you more groundwork of why she even went through that in the first place, because she wasn't even supposed to be saved. Now, listen, the translation for this is the people in your life who see who you're becoming, even while you're still in Sodom, their prayer, belief, and advocacy in the unseen is part of what pulls you out. That's why when you are changing, people who want to keep you there, that they gotta go. But sometimes, it's good to have people outside. So what I'm doing with my lessons is I'm just trying to reach those who feel like they look around like, my heart's pretty good, but I am around some stuff. And that's where the compassion comes in, because you can choose. God is looking at your heart. But what God is really doing is he is giving people an escape plan, because he is saying, there is already a prophecy, but a lot of people are teaching to where, repent, repent, repent. He doesn't care about that. And stop saying, well, Yeshua died for our sins. No, Yeshua came to show you the damn way. Grace comes when you give yourself enough grace to forgive yourself and heal and do the work and then continue to move forward. So that's why these teachings teach you to live in the negative one, or to live in the positive one, and to not do the work in the zero. So ask yourself, never mind, let me stop. Let me keep going. Tell me to keep going. If you like it, if you love it, say I love it and tell me to keep going. So anyways, the angels, now listen, this is what I'm telling you. The angels had to physically grab Lot. Even the people the universe is rescuing often have to be dragged out, because attachment to the collapsing system is default. That's why God gives you compassion, because he knows what you've been going through. He knows what you've been around. He knows how you was brought up, and he still tries to save you. But then what happens? What happens when people come in and try to teach people stuff? We rebuke it because it sounds too different. So consider me dragging you out. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're so welcome. I love to do it. Anyways, the instruction wasn't to fight. And that's why the people of your past, when you try to leave, what do they try to do? Get you to react. So they try to get you in the present to react. He's not saying react. He is saying let go of the illusion of loyalty, the illusion of the necessity. So what do they try to do? They try to bind you to something. And then if you act, you're bound to it. You're now a pillar of salt in that, because you're now going through a court case. You're now going through those other things. But that's why your consciousness has to be in the manifestation. You have to be so far already in there to where in the physical, all you're doing is truly stepping into it. So when the angels, it was already going to be destroyed. It was already going to be destroyed. Or as I want to say, Revelation, Judgment Day. Judgment Day already exists. already exist. But what y'all are not speaking about are the actual present moments of chances that he is giving you to only redeem yourself. And you redeem yourself by cutting off everything that will keep you from being judged. So your judgment is actually in the present. It's not a timeline. It is right now. It is in the works you do currently. Now, the physical manifestation of it will be you being a failure to yourself. And then that is your judgment of not being free, not building heaven on earth in the present, not having the love you deserve in the present, not having the life you deserve in the present, not having the abundance you deserve in the present. That is going to be your judgment of not having, because you wouldn't even have yourself, because you are attached to so many things that are an illusion of a necessity or an illusion of a future that hasn't even come yet. Sorry, let's keep going. Good. I would have been so mad if my camera cut off after I just blew all of that wind out of me. I would have been angry. So, the escape was being negotiated by someone outside the system. So, the Battle of the Bastards. The other army already existed. I was going to help them. Their goal was to take back their kingdom. Take back the north. So they had to move forward as is. That win was already John's. So he had to believe that externally. Okay? The brother and what they did, there was no one that, they had to go. There was no one that could be saved. Okay? So that was already going to happen too. That was the judgment. John, all he had to do was go into the trap that was made for him. And I'm not saying walk into traps blindly. What I'm saying is go for what you want. There's already people lined up that are going to try to block you. But God already, as the enemy got plans, but Allah is the greatest planner. I'm not quoting it right. While the enemy is planning, he is planning. So he's allowing your enemies to try to block you. But guess what your enemies are going to try to do? They're going to try to throw a rock and hide their hands. They're going to try to use other things and stuff. But he wants that to happen so that way you can see your enemies as he removes them. Don't you want to see who they are? Don't you want to know? Anyways, keep going. The rescue required physical extraction because people don't leave systems voluntarily. They don't. So that's when God sends messengers, people to speak to you, to assist you into seeing the next 2 steps. And as you see the next 2 steps, I'm not showing you the map, but I'm telling you that there's going to be terrain. There's going to be that. Your goal is to be so grounded in what you want that nothing can outside of you, because everything outside of you is going to try. Your goal is to know what you want internally. F them and what they think. F them and what they think that you are, or who they want to say you are. F that. Your goal is that. And so yes, so you're going to face internally doubt. And that's going to come in someone trying to knock you off. You're going to face lack of worthiness. You're going to face all those fears. So you're going to have to take a risk on yourself. And the risk is physical. But the work is all internal. That's the real hard work. And so what's going to happen? As you start seeing how valuable your seed is, you're going to stop giving it to people. So what's going to happen? Yeah, you're going to get very horny. Yeah, you're going to want it. And yeah, you're going to want to do those things to satisfy that stuff. And then that's going to come at the same time with a bad woman. Fine and all, right there, like, give it to me. And then you're going to deal with the external manifestation of that. It's going to be hard. And then it's going to deal with people saying, well, you did all this before. You know, it's going to be all that stuff. Expect it. That's the terrain. Now, watch this. The rescue required physical extraction because people don't leave system. But the instruction was simple. Walk forward. Don't look back. Don't linger. That was the instruction. What's my instructions? Walk, see, exist in the present, walk forward, remove. Exist in the present, walk forward, remove. That's it. If you have to look at the past, only for a lesson of what not to do. And what's the lesson? Don't look back. Keep going. All right? Now, and what's the lesson that you're going to look at is how to remove you faster. That's the lesson I look at, is how do I remove you faster. So anyway, now listen, in the middle of all that mercy, all that elaborate and divine choreography to pull one family out of doom, all of that. So he had Abraham vouch for him and negotiate with God. The angels went there. Okay? The angels blinded the people so that no one will see them go. Given absolute instruction. Take your family. You don't have to leave your family behind. And clear instructions. And it was all of that. He still tried to negotiate. He was like, well, do I have to go to the mountains? Can I just go over here? So he still was kind of holding on to something small. All of that, one still looked back, and the mechanics took her. She did not fail a moral test. She failed to complete the crossing the system had. So, the rescue was free. The new timeline was free. The angels did the work. The destruction was happening on its own, and her single job was to only walk forward. So, I mentioned before how the reason why she had to go with it, because she was already, remember how I wrote in the notes before? I wrote she was already fully integrated there. So even though her body was going, her consciousness was already there. So she wasn't even supposed to be saved, but because God remembered Abraham, he tried. God tried to. And God would have saved the whole place, but what did they say? They couldn't even save 10 people in that place. Okay? So the reason why the whole place had to be destroyed is because there was no saving that entire system. It would have just kept producing more corruption. And what does a mom do? Produce. They already said the daughters were fully integrated too. So if he wants to like take away a whole way of being because it's so corrupt and your consciousness is there, it wasn't even enough. It wasn't that she just looked back. It was that she was still of a way that was being destroyed. I hope that makes sense. Damn, I got through all that. So anyway, so the new timeline. So let's talk about manifestation and everything. So the new timeline was activated when Abraham welcomed the stranger. So that's when the new timeline was. Like I said, everyone kept crying. So this is the beginning of when it was going to be the end of Sodom. But what happens with the ending? A new beginning. So the old timeline was already condemned. The destruction was coming, whether anyone left or not. The escape was being negotiated by someone outside of the system. Okay? So that's why God sends messengers. And he sends messengers to try to reach the hearts of the people who are still in the corruption. The rescue required physical extraction because people don't leave systems voluntarily. Instruction was simple. Walk forward, do not look back. Okay? So, this is why the two-step method isn't just don't plan too far ahead. It's the mechanic of how you actually cross timelines. And that's why as well, a lot of people, even if they don't spiritually know, they don't want you to do that because they may not exist on that timeline. So that's why they had to like pull him out of that, because what happened when the angels came to take them? The people around tried to corrupt him even more, and he almost gave them his virgin daughters. And that was in the present moment. The angels were trying to pull his attention away from that to keep going. And they had to literally blind them and pull and push him in the house. Because if he would have done that, then he would have in that moment been, no matter how much hospitality he gave them, he would have in that moment acted off of the corruption. That's how deep that corruption was. So the two-step principle is the mechanic of how you actually cross a timeline. One step is where you are now. That's what they were to stop you, and that's where the smoke is. That's why I told you in the other smoke screen video, is you look at where you are now, and then the smoke is right there, but you take a step forward, and you see what has to be removed. The illusion of the necessity, and then you keep going, and then you keep going. The only real... So one step is where you are now, the only real place. 2 steps is the immediate next moves, your forward attention. Smoke beyond is unrevealed terrain of the new timelines. Don't try to clear it, let it reveal itself. Behind you, the timeline that's collapsing. So when people be selling this manifestation stuff, and it's crazy. I actually want to teach manifestation, but not, and I got to figure out how I even want to do that, because it's not going to be just, and that's why, so what happens is when people manifest something, they want to teach those steps. So it's like, you're not ascending past it. They just get to a certain high, and then they teach how to get to that high. But I don't want to get into that right now. I just don't want to do it. I just want to do it. It's going to give me a headache. That's just something else. Let me focus here. But anyways, so step 1 is where you are now, the only real place. Step 2 is the immediate next move, your forward attention. The smoke beyond is the unrevealed terrain of the new timelines. Don't try to clear it. Let it reveal. Behind you, the timeline that's collapsing. That's the Sodom in your life, okay? Don't turn. Let it collapse without you in it, without your attention in it, okay? Let it collapse with that. Your old identity ain't there no more. People around you want to keep it there. It don't exist there anymore. And they don't want you to do that because if you're someone who they benefited from while you were at that low frequency, then you were a big part of their story. And then now they're left without you. They're not relying on you. I'm telling you, watch that Word Witch video. Watch it. Anyway, so this is what I was talking about, the -1, the 0, and the +1. I told you in that video, the power of 0, to write those numbers down. That's how you kind of keep yourself in focus. Your goal is to always stay in the 0 and to bring what you want in the future into the present. And how do you do that? By what you do in the present that aligns with that. So, I wrote jump into this. So, as you are, I said jump into the Twin Towers and then the Isaiah. So, okay, so what I was told here was the prophecy has already been made about destruction. So what God is saying is, the grace right now, grace and the mercy right now is the rescue. And I'm hearing it's not what you think. So a lot of people feel like the ones who are rescued, it's crazy. Like, I was watching silently last year. I wasn't even on social media about how a lot of people heard this prophet talking about how God's coming, and then everyone started selling their stuff. That's the illusion that you gotta kind of like sell your stuff. You have to get rid of the self. You don't have to get rid of all your belongings. It's just that it's about, does your heart weigh as light as a feather? They want you to feel like God wants you to suffer and be broke. That's not true. That's not true. And whoever is saying that, that's false. That's false. That's not what he is saying. He is saying when you are guided to move forward into your heaven and into your peace, you have to leave behind everything that takes you from it. Okay, so it might, and here's the thing, that might be you downsizing, because guess what? If that version of you have to work so hard and keep up a stigma to just have those things, you might actually choose not to have a lot of those things. You might see that that's just a lot of baggage and it keeps you from being free. Like for me, for a while, it's like I was like so oppressed in getting a home just to be a good mom, and then I realized that a home is where I lay my kids. As I have consistent income. I have all of that. But me just buying all this stuff kept me from being free at the moment. I'll settle down when I'm ready to settle down. I did that my whole life. But right now, it's like I want to be a little free bird and I want to show my kids the world. I want to show them that. I don't want to have a whole bunch of baggage to do that. If an opportunity comes my way, I want to be able to say, peace, bye. You know, and I got to be a little light to do that. You know what I'm saying? So you can't be caught by either timeline trap. You're not far enough forward to fantasize, and you're not back enough to crystallize. You are walking the threshold in real time, and the threshold rewards forward motion by continuing to open. So battle of the bastards. Fear existed. Lack also existed. The fear was the +1 of him not having enough, of him losing because he didn't have enough. And then the lack existed of him not having enough and not moving forward. Both of those things existing simultaneously, his goal was to make him not move forward internally. That's why we're all stuck on this Adam and Eve stuff. That's why we're all stuck on that. Because we are constantly digesting stuff that gives us shame. And then that was just used so that down the road, women could be punished for having knowledge. Because they can use that story that they were punished because she ate the apple and manipulated Adam. And Adam already had the knowledge. Eve just wanted to get some too. That's just a manipulated, dumbass story. No. Here's the thing. If heaven was so great, then how was the devil able to be in the garden? It wasn't that. The earth, he gave Adam dominion over the earth. Dominion over everything, including the devil. The devil was only granted access by manipulating her externally, by saying, if you bite an apple, something physically. But he manipulated her and was able to come to her by choice, by her feeling like she lacked and she would gain something external. So that's why they want to say knowledge is supposed to be hidden. First of all, knowledge exists everywhere. If your mind ain't ready to integrate it, then it just doesn't, it just exists. So they want you to be like, so now that's why I'll go deeper into it. Anyway, so the story is that she ate the apple, and so knowledge was outside of her, but knowledge was in her for her to be, it was to be discovered over time through lessons. Through lessons. It was supposed to be discovered. But the illusion was that you can't bite that apple because of that. And the trap was if she could manipulate her by thinking that she was withheld and not know the power that she already had within her. And if he could get her to believe that she lacked, and then in believing that she lacked and then that she gained from that, she inherited shame. And the shame was the curse. And in that, then she manifested lack and hardship. Because then she now had to reach outside of her to create abundance. And she didn't believe that it was already within her. So now she was living in hell by her outer world having dominion over her inner self. So now hell was made manifest inside of her. Man, whatever. Take it or leave it. I don't care. I'm at peace regardless. So yeah. So you can't be tracked by either timeline. 2 steps ahead isn't just a planning principle. It's the only stance from which timeline crossing actually works. The 2 illusions. Remember this. Forward is the smoke necessity. Illusion of necessity. Backward is Lot's wife. You will never listen to the Lot's wife story the same after you heard this story. 2 timelines. The old one collapsing, the new one is in motion. So as you walk forward, the old collapse. You ever see those things or games where you walk forward and everything crumbles behind, but you gotta like keep walking forward and things like that? You know? It's just like that. As you walk forward, the old collapse. But if you look back, that's how you fall with what's collapsing. And then you're crystallized. There's only the moment of when you stopped. So she is literally crystallized as a lesson. She is a manifestation of a lesson of what not to do. Anyways, internal versus the external mirror. So like I said, is this. She internally was Sodom. So she couldn't even make manifest external in the new timeline because she was already corrupted internally. So it didn't matter how much he tried to pull her out. She would have looked back because that's what she knew. Lot was the only one who wasn't. Dual functions of resistance. Now, the devil tries to block you physically, so he puts illusions in front of you that you have to reach for things physically, like the apple. And he was able to be used, and that was a lesson for her. That it was a lesson for her because which she didn't really learn the lesson, and the lesson is still being learned till today, was that the devil could only be used if it could show you how you hold yourself back. So in doing that, and her holding herself back, the devil was able to use her. I'm going to do a whole nother lesson about that, so I'm not really trying to go too deeply into that. So anyways, what I get from all this stuff together, the whole bunch of prophecies at once, is something going on between September and winter, I don't know, fall and winter. I heard save money. I also told you guys about kind of what to do with your money. You got to get that in the Patreon other channel because it has to do with the word witch. Gold digger reading. I did. Winter is coming, so some type of prophecy is going to come, and something about a war or a battle. I heard something about military as well. So people who pride themselves on military and things like that, you're going to be defeated by something in the east. I don't know. I won't go into that right now. I'm going to go into that deeper when I can meditate on that. But I think that's an overall, that's like a macro message within this micro teaching. But what I'm hearing is this, is that you grew up in corruption. You grew up around a lot of corrupt people. And God loves you. And even with the choices that you made, because Lot was still saved, even when he was about to give up his daughter, it just shows how much grace and compassion God has. Because he just had a little bit of, and all he did was show his hospitality. It just shows that even though he did do some things, there was still a piece in his heart that could still be saved. God looks in your heart for what can still be saved. And God is trying to do divine intervention before the towers fall. That's where I got the Twin Tower thing from. Before the towers fall. And like I said, is my condolences for anybody who lost somebody in that. I'm not meaning to bring that up that way. But like I said, is things that happened in the past are only meant to be taught in the present as a mechanical story to help guide people in the present, not to live in the past. So God is rescuing you, Emperor. He is rescuing you from yourself. From you. He knows your heart deep down. And he knows, even though you probably did some things, it's not for me to judge or for him to judge. You are still worthy of a love worth fighting for. But you're worth fighting for first. And as you start walking away, Sodom is going to collapse. So be prepared for that. And as people start coming to you to block you, your only 2 steps are to look forward. That's it. And to have that goal. Your consciousness needs to be where that goal is, and in the present moment actively building that goal. Okay, so you look into the future for what that goal is, and you come back to the present and you remove everything that keeps you from that, and that's how you're moving forward. And you're going to start seeing, I want you to start seeing, after you cut one thing off at a time, how much faster are you moving? Because that's how lighter you will be. This was a very deep lesson. I am very tired. Basira Intuition, my people. Basira. I'm Claudia, Quiana, or simply Q. I hope maybe I'm a spiritual guide to some of you guys, or maybe I'm a messenger. Maybe I'm the angel knocking on your door saying, let me in. I'm trying to save you. But either way, your judgment is how you judge yourself. Remember that. God is a compassionate God. So judge yourself as someone who is worthy for grace. And then you judge it by the actions that you take for yourself. Everything leads you back to self, how you love yourself. So it's you forgiving yourself and you seeing why things happen or why things exist. And then you saying, this happened because of this and this was my reaction, but you want to know what? Guess what? It don't mean I'm a bad person. It means I can choose this and I can also choose differently. It's all my choice at the end of the day. Remember, heaven and hell exist simultaneously. God bless you.